the book of Joshua marks a powerful turning point in the story of God's people. After generations of waiting, wandering, and wondering, Israel now stands at the edge of fulfillment. Moses, the great leader who brought them out of Egypt, is gone. The wilderness years are over. Ahead lies the Promised Land. Joshua is not just a book about battles and land. It is a story about faith in action, obedience under pressure, and the faithfulness of God to keep every promise He has spoken. It reveals that God does not merely promise victory, He walks with His people into it. The book opens with God commissioning Joshua as the new leader of Israel. The responsibility is immense. Moses is gone, and the future is uncertain. Yet God speaks words of assurance that echo throughout the entire book. Be strong and courageous. Do not be afraid, for the Lord your God will be with you wherever you go. Joshua's strength will not come from military skill alone, but from obedience to God's word. Success is tied not to strategy, but to faithfulness. The first major obstacle is the Jordan River. At flood stage, it blocks Israel's path into the Promised Land. But just as God once parted the Red Sea, He now parts the Jordan. The priests step forward in faith. The waters stop, and the people cross on dry ground. Stones are set up as a memorial reminder that God is faithful and mighty. The conquest begins, not with weapons, but with worship and obedience. Jericho, a fortified city, stands before them. God's plan defies logic. March around the city, blow trumpets and shout. No siege engines, no battle cries, just obedience. And when the walls fall, it becomes clear victory belongs to the Lord. Yet the story quickly reminds us that obedience matters. At Ai, Israel suffers defeat, because God is weak, but because sin has entered the camp. Once the sin is dealt with, God restores His favor, and victory returns. Joshua learns that success in God's plan requires holiness as well as courage. As the narrative continues, Joshua leads Israel through a series of campaigns, central, southern, and northern, defeating kings and securing territory. But the victories are not always dramatic. Sometimes they are slow, difficult, and costly. God fights for Israel, yet He calls His people to participate actively. Divine power and human obedience work together. One of the most striking moments comes when the sun stands still during battle. God intervenes in time itself to fulfill His promise. This moment declares a powerful truth. Creation itself responds to the will of the Creator when He acts on behalf of His people. Eventually, the land is divided among the 12 tribes. Each tribe receives an inheritance, fulfilling God's ancient promise to Abraham. The wandering nation now has a home. Yet even in rest, Joshua warns the people, possessing the land is not the same as remaining faithful. Near the end of the book, Joshua delivers a final address, much like Moses did before him. He reminds the people of everything God has done: deliverance, provision, victory, and faithfulness. Then he presents them with a choice that echoes across generations. Choose this day whom you will serve. But as for me and my house, we will serve the Lord. Joshua understands that the greatest threat is not external enemies, but internal compromise. The battle for the land may be over, but the battle for the heart continues. The book of Joshua is a testimony to the faithfulness of God and the power of obedient faith. It teaches that God keeps His promises, that courage is rooted in trust, and that victory flows from walking closely with Him. Joshua shows us that stepping into God's promises requires action, faith, and perseverance. The same God who parted the waters, toppled walls, and defeated kings is the God who still leads His people today. The message of Joshua is clear and timeless. God goes before His people. God fights for His people, and God fulfills every promise when His people choose to follow Him fully.